And so I was grinding and pushing, but not only that, I was also expanding, terrified, learning new skills. It was all of these things combining. And I started to burn out. My health just really deteriorated. My relationship at the time, we started arguing. We were growing apart. I vividly remember I was in this server room at our old co-working space in New Zealand, and I just broke down crying. And I can't keep going this way. Like, this is not sustainable.
Welcome to the Legacy Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Beauparlant, here to guide you through the journey of selling your business and building a personal brand that leaves a lasting impact. On the show, we'll explore real-life founder stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you navigate the transition, avoid post-sale crisis, and create your impact-driven legacy brand. Whether you're thinking of selling, building to sell, or already on the other side, this podcast is your go-to resource for making your next evolution your best one yet. Let's dive in. Today, I am super excited to welcome Briony McKenzie to the Legacy Branding Podcast. She is a thought leader and founder of Untapped, a coaching company guiding the next generation of evolutionary experts to scale with ease. A former corporate lawyer, Briony left her high-powered career to pursue her passion for coaching, and since then, she's built a seven-figure business impacting thousands through her programs and was recently featured in Forbes for her insights on holistic entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
We met a couple of years ago and we connected at an event on an island in Croatia, which is always so fascinating where we meet people. And I loved just your energy and the business that you have built. And I wanted to start by asking, you left behind this high-powered corporate career as a lawyer and you started this coaching business. And I would love for you to share what inspired you to leave that behind and to make that decision to follow your true calling.
I always love reflecting on this journey. And even now, it's been 7 years since I made that transition, and it's still phenomenal to think back to where I really was and the courage it took to make that jump. But for me, moving into law, I was in corporate law for a number of years, and I knew actually pretty much most of the time that I was in that career that it wasn't my forever and my sole thing I wanted to do with my life. And I just didn't actually know what it was I really wanted to do. So I took a lot of time, a lot of space, and a lot of my salary to actually go on this kind of personal growth and spiritual development journey to get more connected to who I am and what I want to create. And it took years actually of an unfolding. And I think at its most powerful point, I had to let go of who I thought I had to be or what was expected of me, which is one of my greatest life lessons, to figure out what I authentically wanted. My dad's a lawyer, my stepmom's a lawyer. Most everyone in my family are in professions, let's say teaching, things like this. So I was really raised in that environment, and that was what was modeled to me. So entrepreneurship and starting my own thing was not really my first thought. That wasn't what I thought I was going to go into. I thought maybe I'll be a consultant or an in-house lawyer or something radically different. But when I looked up these options every single time, it just didn't feel right. And even some of these jobs, I was reflecting the other day, and I was sharing this in a podcast as well. Like, I went for a bunch of jobs that I technically should have definitely got, I was overqualified for. And every time I got rejected. And I was like,
interesting.
What is happening? Like, I am so qualified. And I now know we say that every rejection is just a redirection. I was getting redirected, like the universe, whatever, was like, nope, not right, not looking deep enough. And it really took me to this path. And I worked with a lot of incredible coaches. And one specifically gave me, sometimes we just need that permission slip. And she said, look, Briony, we've done this whole career mapping journey. We've got connected to who you are, what your skills are. And here's basically 3 options. What's speaking to you? And I said, the coaching path is really the thing that feels most exciting, but also most terrifying because it's less secure. I'd spent my whole life in formal training and education kind of roadmaps. And I said that, and she said, go for it. And that sometimes we do need those people who just give us that tiny permission slip. Yeah. And she was that person for me that I went back to the office. I really sat with it. That night I walked home really late. We worked really late, and I was just standing at the traffic lights. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do this now. I'm just going to go. And that wasn't an easy decision. There's a lot of fear. I remember handing my resignation. My hand was just shaking and I was just sweating.
Yeah.
And my boss was like, "Are you sure you want to resign?" I was like, and yeah, for me, it was about, if not now, then when? Like, when am I really ever going to feel ready to make a leap like this? And I had this deep knowing. I had absolutely no control, no real backing of why I thought this would work, just a few things I'd been building on the side. But it was giving myself permission. Hey, what if I give myself 6 or 9 months? And if I fall totally flat on my face, I can always go back to law.
Something I tell my clients all the time is that if something feels really exciting, but also quite terrifying at the same time, you're on the right track. Because if it just feels really exciting, but it doesn't scare you at least a little bit, then we're not actually stretching far enough. And if it's just terrifying and not exciting at all, then also probably on the wrong track. But if you've got both of those elements, then keep pursuing that line. So it sounds like you listened. And I think your awareness that the universe was telling you this is not the career for you, and to go this other direction and knowing, okay, I'm just going to take that leap.
Yeah, it's definitely a constant process of tuning into, you said it beautifully there, it's like that fine line and the combination of both. And I really found that sometimes I think people think, oh no, if I'm scared or there's resistance, then it's not for me. But it's usually, if you're really going to expand, or what we would say following your soul's path, like your really true path, it's absolutely going to bring up parts of you that are afraid or want to look good or are concerned about what other people think. And that's part of the healing process. Like, in that journey of following that, I got stronger and stronger in my sense of self. And that's one of the greatest gifts from the path of doing it as well.
Yeah. And I think this idea of everything needing to be comfortable is a fallacy. We actually need the discomfort of pushing ourselves and trying new things. That's where we grow and that's where we learn. And we don't get that in the comfort of maybe the security of a job or a career. Doesn't maybe bring you joy, but there's a comfort in that. And a lot of people end up staying there because of that comfort. But really, it is stepping into the fear of the unknown that is what will help you grow the most.
Absolutely.
You talk about holistic entrepreneurship. I would love to hear what that is. Like, how do you define it? How does that show up for you? How do you help other entrepreneurs with holistic entrepreneurship?
Holistic entrepreneurship is what I would say is doing business in a new way. And what does that actually mean? It means about the foundations of you as a leader and a creator, because it's so easy in entrepreneurship to look at the offerings, the revenue model, the sales system, the marketing plan, and all these elements. And those are fantastic and those are important. But what is also important is the founder and the creator, who is the source of all of that. And where this whole kind of concept came from is I basically took the way that I used to work as a lawyer into how I worked as an entrepreneur, and very quickly learned within 2 years that was not going to work and that was not sustainable. Because maybe in the pressure and context of law, whilst it was stressful, we also weren't running our own businesses. We weren't doing financials at the end of the month. We weren't creating and bringing things into the world and stretching beyond what we thought. We were just working hard. And I took that way of working, like those hours, across to being an entrepreneur. And so I was grinding and pushing, but not only that, I was also expanding, terrified, learning new skills. It was all of these things combining. And I started to burn out. My health just really deteriorated. My relationship at the time, we started arguing. We were growing apart. And I vividly remember I was in this server room. It was like a computer room where all the servers were at our old co-working space in New Zealand. And I just broke down crying. And I was like, I can't keep going this way. Like, this is not sustainable. And that's when those deeper questions came for me. Okay, how do we actually do this in a more sustainable way that is long-term success, where everyone wins, including the founder and creator? Like, how am I going to do this? And that was starting to then learn the fundamentals of what does that actually take. And I think at its core, when I'm talking about holistic entrepreneurship, it's learning to rest. It's healing those parts of you that want validation and approval, because then you can obviously gift yourself time off. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs feel guilty for not working. And so it's about reframing all these internal patterns that we have so you can lead better, so you can have a better life, you can actually have great health, you can live, you can enjoy the process. Like, I work with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs now who they are, let's say, crushing it from the outside. They're hitting amazing revenue targets. Their businesses are incredible. And yet they're sitting there saying they don't feel like they're good enough. They're still not winning and they can't stop. And so that is building a business from a wounded place. That's not holistic. Something getting created from patterns that aren't going to support you long term. So holistic entrepreneurship is about doing the inner work on the founder to then create those outer transformations. And what we see in our programs and the results is like people transform from the inside out, how they lead, they have more time, they have more fun, they make a lot more money because money flows with those things, abundance, energetics, it's all interlinked. And then their business drastically transforms in a few years' time. They build teams, they let go of control. So yeah, it really is this paradigm flipping of, can we look inwards first? Can we understand how we operate as founders, build a great context, and then put the business strategy over top?
Love it. That is powerful and so important, the work that you are doing. And I know as a founder myself, that struggle to feel like I need to be at my desk and doing the things while my team is working. And it can sound fancy if I'm off doing these different things. But the reality is, when I take that time to recharge, that's when I do my best work. I actually joked recently on social media. I said, my clients pay me to go for bike rides because that's actually where I come up with my best ideas for my clients. But that is the reality. It's not sitting here at my desk trying to be creative. It's when I'm out on my bicycle or out on a walk in nature that my best ideas will come to me. So that's not actually something I should feel guilty about at all. I should be going for more bike rides.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's discovering that zone of genius. And then, exactly as you've done, landing in that self-worth of, oh, it doesn't have to look a certain way, or maybe how I grew up or how I was modeled, or if you were in corporate, you saw that demonstrated. It's, I get to enjoy every part of this and be supported in the process. And that support, I think, is another huge breakthrough people have. It's, wow, I don't have to do this on my own, because a lot of the independent stuff, a lot of entrepreneurs and founders, we're really independent. Yeah. That's why we built something on our own. Yeah. And also, who wants to create something totally on your own forever? Like, it's not fun because you can never stop. You never have people to ideate with. And so a huge transformation is when, again, you let go of that hyper independence and you start to rely on people. Like you said, your team are managing things, you're out riding bikes, speaking on stages. It really is such a beautiful way to start to build. And it's a process, because you have to let go of control. You have to feel worthy of having support. Like, you have to step into your leadership. There's a lot of layers that go with those transformations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I met in an island in Croatia at an entrepreneur event. And there was a time where I would feel this immense guilt, because you'd hear those comments like, must be nice. It must be nice that you get to go to these exotic places and do these things. And it is amazing. And it's also what I'm choosing, and it's how I'm choosing to run my business. And meeting people in person, deeply connecting, is the thing that grows my business the most, by just being in community with people. And I've decided, if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. And we've all chosen this path of entrepreneurship, and it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't have to be a hustle. It will be if we let it be. But what if we actually had a lot of fun doing it and gave ourselves permission to do that? And I no longer feel the guilt of going off in these far-flung places and going on the adventure trips or events with other entrepreneurs or traveling for speaking, because I know that is what brings me the most joy when it comes to my business and fills my cup, but also helps me grow and expand and reach more people, grow my business, build my platform, and help more people around the world. So it's just flipping the narrative of, this actually gives me more opportunity to expand and do bigger things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And something you touched on there that I think is a beautiful distinction as well is a lot of the work we do as well. It's not just about the thing that you're doing and the strategy or the actions. It's about the context of where you're creating from, because the context of where you create from determines the whole experience. And when we talk about context, we look at levels of consciousness and levels of energy, and shame, guilt, fear, and anxiety. These are all really low vibrating frequencies. So you can build from them, you can build something, but the experience, what it's going to do to your body, and even what you start to put out in the world is going to have that energetic imprint in it, shame and guilt and fear. And so it's not going to be fun for you. Maybe it's going to achieve some things. And so it is changing exactly what you just said so beautifully. It's changing the context of how you're building. So where, not just what are you doing every day with your time, what context are you creating from? Joy, creativity, like fun. Can you imagine, like really, if you're listening to this, really leading that lamb, can you imagine just creating from fun in every moment? Like it's not, some things are going to be hard and difficult, but that changes everything. And there's a lot of thought leaders and creators that say like when they started having more fun, they made so much more money and just enjoyed the process so much more. And I think that's really huge is we get to determine where we're creating from. And a natural default is going to be a lot of shame, guilt. We have to transcend those emotions to elevate into the context we really want to build from. Because, yeah, it is a choice and it's going to make the biggest difference in your journey.
Yeah. And you just said it. We get to decide, right? Yeah. All of these things, we get to decide. We have the ability to do that. And I think that's such an important part of this idea of energetics in business and wealth expansion. I know that's a huge part of what you do. For me, this idea of wealth always felt like there was greed attached to it. And there was that money story around wealth building. And a few years ago, I flipped the script on that. And so for me, I determined the more money I make, the more impact I can have. And that it's not taking away from anybody else, but it actually allows me to create bigger impact. And so it's flipping that around to being this negative energetic word to something that is really positive. And it's not greedy because it's actually greedy for me to not want to have a greater impact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Money, we attribute so many narratives to money, right? Like we all have, I heard this great term the other day, like this new distinction, or not a coach, but like a financial therapist. And I was like, yes, I think the Americans have come up with it first. But I was like, yes, like money can be, there's a lot of trauma for people with money. It's huge. And the process of falling in love with it and healing your relationship with it is actually quite like a spiritual journey. There's like a lot of layers to it around being worthy and receiving. And I think the closer you get to it, the more you realize like money is actually neutral. It doesn't have a preference either way, but what it is an amplifier for who you already are. So if you're sitting here knowing that in your soul, as you described, you want to make more of an impact and contribute more and lead with generosity and give more, then money is simply, because it's neutral, once it's in your hands, in your field, you can circulate it in a way that's in alignment with your values. So it's only going to amplify who you are. And a lot of people fear it's going to make me greedy. It's going to make me this. It's going to make me lose all my friends. No, it's going to amplify who you already are. And we do a lot of work, and something I really recommend founders, leaders, creators do is spend some good time really thinking about how much wealth do you want? And that's not a question. Each of us have different things. We have different metrics. We have different desires in our life. So you don't need to copy the person next to you and have millions of dollars. Your vision may be smaller, may be bigger, and really taking time to get connected to that vision, how much money that's actually going to take to live that way, and start to bring some tangibility to it, because that will inspire and uplift you in your path of business to be like, okay, let's create more, let's invite more, because you have a clear vision. Because imagine, I don't know, I always give this example, like imagine going to a friend's for a catch up and they're like, hey, you should come over to mine and we should catch up. And you're like, okay. And then another friend says, hey, you should come over to mine. I'm making Mediterranean. Then we're going to play Monopoly Deal and have a wine and whatever it is. And you're like, oh, that sounds beautiful. Like that is how money is feeling about you. So if you're like, I just need more money, and there's no plan and there's no vision, that's how it connects. And verse, if you're like, okay, money, let's chat, let's do this thing. Here's what's possible. Here's what we can create. Here's what the game plan's going to be. Here's how we're going to circulate it. Then money wants to be in that frequency. So it's having a clear money vision. And yeah, your legacy, like you're going to need it. It doesn't matter what way you want to circulate it, you're going to need it.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue into my question about legacy. But before I do that, I will say I love Monopoly Deal. Yes, sometime when we're in the same country, we're having Mediterranean and we're playing Monopoly Deal.
Yes, we will fulfill on that vision.
It's a date.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's there. That's going to happen. Okay. So this is the Legacy Branding Podcast. I'm all about helping people create their legacy brand. And actually, in anything I do, whether I'm speaking or the work we do with clients, it's all about what is the impact and contribution that you are making. And so I'd love to hear, what does legacy mean to you, and how do you see Untapped contributing to that legacy?
Legacy is, what will people say and know and remember when I'm gone? Our lives are pretty fleeting and they're a blip really in the macro of everything. So legacy is, I really know and trust that every soul came here for a divine purpose and reason. I believe that, and I know that because my whole path was figuring out what that was. There was many points in my life where I didn't think that I had something like that. But it was following that, realizing, okay, there is a purpose for me to be here. So legacy is, how do you uncover what it is you're meant to give and your gifts, and then give them to the world to contribute further, to advance us, evolve us, expand us. And what is it that people say when your time's up and you're out? That's it, right? That's the impact you had on humanity. And that's really what a legacy is for me. How I really see that is, for me, one of my greatest things and what I love is like reminding people who they are, how powerful they are, and what's possible. Like, that's one of my unique gifts. And that's something that Untapped has done for thousands of people. I just help people get more connected. We could say change, etc., but it's not often that. For many people, when I'm coaching and working them with, it's a remembrance. Like, they stop believing all the crap that they tell themselves. They get out of their own way. They stop feeling unworthy of what they want to create in their life, and they own what it is they really want to build and create. And it's a permission slip. And a lot of people, thousands of students, have done a lot of incredible things. And that can sometimes include leaving relationships, careers, starting businesses, being amazing mums. Like, it doesn't really matter, because everyone's visions of what they want to be and and what they want to contribute are so different. But it's giving people really that permission to do it. And that's, I love that. And the other part that really, when I think about Untapped and like the legacy it is, my favorite thing still is like when I get messages from people that I just got one the other day, like 4 years on, they're having catch-ups and coffees, but now they have babies. All these women who did these programs together, they're still hanging out, they're still accountability buddies, and now they're catching up and having babies and tagging Untapped. And then in Finland the other day, 3 new female founders, they joined some of our programs, and then they wanted to all meet. And so they all went to a co-working space, and then they sent a photo of them all doing their Untapped work at this co-working space. And I was like, oh, for me, that's legacy, because that lives beyond me. That is a frequency, a community, and an impact that lives so far beyond me in a coaching call. That is the real joy. It's cool. Now you have your people that really get you, and you can continue to create and transform with. That's my ultimate legacy, is when it lives beyond.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love it. So how can people work with you? I know you help evolutionary experts scale their business with ease. So what does that mean? How can people work with you?
Yeah, there's pretty much 2 pathways. One is we have transformational business programs. And when we say evolutionary experts, we're talking about people who care, your coaches, consultants, thought leaders, but you care about evolving humanity, right? That is, impact is at the core of what Untapped does as well. That's why all of our students exist and do what they do. So yeah, you're going to make lots of money, all the things, but really, if you're interested in creating truly incredible programs and scaling, like maybe you're doing things, but you're doing them like 1-to-1 and very small scale, and there's more, you want to develop your unique methodology, your way of working, and scale that, then we have business programs for that. And those are layered, because those are all the strategies and blueprints, and then also helping you, like we talked about, become the founder who can hold that business, right? Because running a business at a few one-on-one sessions randomly or whatever, and then scaling it into a group or a community or whatever it is, that's a very different frequency of that founder. So we really support you on that journey. And for a lot of people, that can take up to a year. And the other way that I'm working with founders is our quantum program. There is no business strategy in that program. That is pure transformation. That is helping you connect to the vision of who you want to become, learning to manage your energy, your nervous system, lead from a grounded, regulated place, Get all your like systems, self-care, boundaries, all of that work in so you can just be your greatest version of yourself. And the founders that we have in that program, they care about being better leaders, better mums, and just they want to enjoy the journey of their business more. But there is zero business strategy. It is all the inner work. So yeah, those are the two pathways.
And I love it because really, as you said in the beginning, I think the energy and that inner work is where it all starts. The business strategy will only get you so far without that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's like we had someone saying that the other day, actually, she's in our business program, but she had done the personal and she really just set up this beautiful pitch. I don't know where it came from, but I just need to say, if you haven't done this one, you need to go and do it because I did it first and it totally transformed how I think about myself and my ego and money. And yeah, I think like that work as a foundation, as a founder, it's just, it doesn't matter how early or late you are in your business. It's always worth doing. It's just the greatest gift you can give yourself. And then it's so easy to apply strategies once you have that grounding. Oh, sure, I can do that because I'm solid in who I am. I know how to execute. I don't procrastinate. I love myself. I have fun. Like it's so easy to run a strategy once you're in that empowered context.
Yeah. So I know these programs last quite a long time. So is there one piece of advice you could leave the founders and entrepreneurs that are listening today with that? What's that one thing that they could do today that could make a huge difference?
Yeah, I would recommend. So I'm trained in NLP Master Prac and hypnotherapy as well. And part of what I really love is supporting people to tap into more of their intuition and their vision. And the more we practice that as a skill, it's great for like mental rehearsal and these elements. So today we have some guided visualizations on Spotify and on YouTube. I can send the links and there's some in there that are just so powerful there's an abundance activation and abundance flood around money. There's one around limiting beliefs. There's one about being visible in your leadership and online. And I would recommend you just go and try one of those experiences. They're all free because it'll just allow you, maybe you've been listening to this and this beautiful podcast and you're like, man, I am feeling called forward to something greater, to my potential, I've got more on my heart. And guided activations and processes were my greatest tool to let my brain and body believe and see something before I was living it, because I wasn't living it. I was living in a cubicle as a lawyer, and I would do these processes and I would let my mind be greater and think bigger and develop new neural pathways. Somatically, I would let my body experience it. And then 3 months later, I would be living it. So those are a tool that I think we get to be doing every day. I make my own personalized ones as well. We do that in our programs, but there's some there that would just be a beautiful start to really letting yourself dream and letting yourself become the version of you that you know you can be.
Beautiful. We will make sure to get those from you. We'll put them in the show notes. This has been such an amazing conversation. How can people find you, connect with you, and learn more about working together?
Yes. So untapped.nz, we're still rocking the New Zealand domain, and Untapped HQ on Instagram. We'll make sure we put those in the show notes as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your insights and your energy. I can feel the passion that you have for the work that you do, and you are clearly making a huge difference in the world. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura. So privileged to be here.
Thanks for tuning into the Legacy Branding Podcast. I hope today's episode has inspired and empowered you on your journey to building a brand that truly matters. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other founders who you think would benefit from listening. And if you're ready to take the next step in building your legacy brand, visit our website, labcreative.ca, to learn more and book a call. Don't forget to join us next time for more conversations that will help you navigate your transition and create your legacy. Until then, I'm Laura Beauparlant.